The Once and Future King by T.H. White. Fantasy classic, collection of novels, King Arthur, Merlin the Magician, loosely based on Le Morte d'Arthur. Discussion of might makes right. If only I had all the props and costumes to go all out for this crash course project. Too bad.
Why do we wage war? How does one become a fair and just ruler? And also, how do we resolve conflict with people that don't want a peaceful resolution? T.H. White tackles all these difficult subjects and more in his 1958 novel, The Once and Future King, a collection of 4 fantasy novels about King Arthur, with a 5th one posthumously published in 1977, following his death. In addition to penning a modern interpretation of a classical tale with complex and relatable characters, White discusses how best to achieve this optimistic dream for a brighter future through the main character of King Arthur Pendragon. Through his childhood education at the hands of Merlin the Magician, and as well as the lessons that he learns from trying to govern a nation. In 1938, T.H. White released his first novel in the series, The Sword and the Stone, about a 10-year-old boy named the Wart, raised by Sir Ector at the Castle Sauvage. As a boy, Arthur likes to play with his adoptive older brother Kay, who tends to bully him for not having any nobles. One day, while the boys are out playing in the woods, their hunting falcon goes missing, so the Wart chases after it to find it. However, he gets lost in the woods and stays there overnight. The next morning, the boy comes across a cottage in the woods where he sees an old man drawing water. This old man tells him that he is a wizard named Merlin, and he has been he's been expecting this boy to arrive precisely at this moment. From there, Merlin leads the Wart back to the safety of the Castle Sauvage, where he becomes both the Wart and Kay's mentor for the next few years. For the next few years, the wizard takes the Wart on several magical adventures, mostly transforming him into different types of animals so that way he can learn the lessons that each one of their species can teach about their ways of life. Once Kay is old enough to be knighted, the Wart is made his squire, but a knight named King Pellinore arrives at Castle Sauvage, bearing the news that King Uther has died, and that he has no rightful heir, so a tournament is being held so that way the winner can be crowned King of England. Kay decides to compete, so they go to London, but on the day of the tournament, he forgets his sword at the inn where they stayed, so he sends the Wart to go and fetch it for him. However, the inn is closed when the Wart gets there, so he goes around in the streets looking around trying to find another sword to work. He finds a sword in a stone, but he was absent in the room when King Pellinore mentioned that there was a sword in the stone that if pulled out would automatically crown someone King of England. So he rushes back to the tournament and presents the sword to Kay, who asks him where he got it. Once he tells Kay where he got it, Kay flips out and tries to take credit for the sword tries to take credit for his own. But once questioned on the matter, he finally gives in and tells the truth, and the Wart is crowned King of England. The second book, The Queen of Air and Darkness, or The Witch in the Wood as it was originally published in 1939, finds Arthur in the early years of his reign, around in his early 20s, struggling to solidify his rule against the rebellious holdout lords of King Uther's reign. Still young and inexperienced, Merlin counsels Arthur on how to be a just and fair ruler, and explains to him how the current blood feud between the Normans and the Gaels began with his father, who revealed to be King Uther, came over from Normandy and began a war against the natives of England. The young king decides to do away with the old system and replace it with a new one. So that way, instead of rulers deciding what is right and wrong through their might, they would instead use their might for right. The ideals of this would form the basis of the Round Table.
Hi, this is post-production Brad. While editing this video, I quickly realized that I have a lot more than 13 minutes of footage that I won't be able to fit into all of this. I tried removing some scenes, tried reorganizing a few things, but it's just a giant incoherent mess if it's not all together. So, to make things a little bit easier on myself, although it may get me a few points docked, I'm just going to go ahead and summarize the middle two books like this. Lancelot is really ugly. He has a lot of low self-esteem. He feels like he's a terrible person and undeserving of anything. Goes on to become the greatest knight. Has some troubles with his faith, thanks to this affair that he starts with Queen Guinevere. Has a bastard son. Yeah. Performs a miracle finally. Good for him. Agravain and Mordred are jerks. They put their plan for revenge into motion, wind up getting the entire clan killed except for Mordred, who then goes to war with Arthur. And then the book it ends there, but there's a fifth. This wasn't supposed to be a bit. I just screwed up.
As the old king falls asleep, he dreams of his old tutor Merlin, and when he wakes up in the morning, he's refreshed and ready to take on his bastard son Mordred. And is that an owl? Oh!
Down, Archimedes!
Merlin, is that
To
you?
fusticate the publisher. There were 2 more lessons before Arthur's death. This tale can be found in the 5th installment, The Book of Merlin. May I?
By all means.
In the Book of Merlin, the 5th installment in the series, Merlin, obviously me, whisks Arthur away to my cave. There he meets my old animal friends that taught him all the way back in the first book. There, we de-aged him back down to where he has a fresher mind to learn the lessons from his youth. He's first transformed into an ant to teach him his authoritarian and totalitarian ways, much like Mordred, and then into a goose to learn their anarchic and socialistic ways. Just are bereft of free will, and which horrifies us. Whereas the member of the society, except the queen, exists to follow orders. The geese, on the other hand, have no properties, borders, leaders, except the elder patriarch, who leads their flock across the world. Arthur admires the geese, but wishes for humans to be more like them. Alas, humans cannot be as geese cannot be human. Ultimately, he decides to meet Mordred on the battlefield, but instead of fighting him, he offers him a truce and half of his kingdom to ensure no more blood would be shed. Mordred agreed to his father's terms, but a snake slithered near one of his men. That man drew his sword, and Arthur's men saw this and thought of it as treachery. The battle thus ensued anyways, despite the king's protests. Some say Arthur and Mordred slew each other in the fight. Others say, like our friends the Welsh, that they were both mortally wounded, but Arthur was taken to Avalon for healing to become the once and future king when England needs him the most.
This collection of novels was a pleasure to read, as it helped me to familiarize myself with the Arthurian tales, such as Le Morte d'Arthur. Although it is written in a modern tone, it is more easily understandable for modern audiences like myself. I wish I could have read it at a younger age and enjoyed it sooner, but I'm glad I finally got around to reading. I would recommend this book to anyone who enjoys fantasy, medieval history, or just a classic retelling of an ancient or an even older literary classic. Now that I've got an idea as to what to expect from Le Morte d'Arthur, I feel more prepared to go ahead and crack it open and get a taste of the actual Arthur.